LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga was one of the most anticipated games of 2023. However, it's clear that the game was made with a mindset of content, and it led to a serious case of quantity over quality. Let's look back. You can tell the team behind this are really passionate about Star Wars, and it shows in the dialogue, character designs, and Easter eggs. The dialogue that occurs when you pair up certain characters is really charming. They can reference an actual connection between characters, take Jango and Boba Fett talking about their armour, banter between Obi-Wan and Anakin, or a reference to a meme, such as General Grievous thirsting over Kylo Ren's lightsaber. The game has really embraced the meme culture that surrounded the prequel trilogy of films since their release, with characters and level names referencing their popularity. The comedy works well in my opinion. Padme eating cake as she nonchalantly asks Anakin if he's turned to the dark side, and Yoda leaving concerned voicemail for Jedi while they get absolutely murked during Order 66 are two instances that generally made me laugh. It's a great addition also that they included an option for mumble mode, in reference to how characters talked in the previous LEGO games. While the mumbling doesn't have the same impact as the cutscenes aren't designed to account for it, it's still a nice addition for nostalgic fans. The voice acting itself is pretty excellent across the board. It's great how they brought back the cast from the Clone Wars TV show, and the other actors do great interpretations of the characters too. The game even throws a bone to fans of the Star Wars universe that extends beyond the 9 films. Ghost from the Rebels TV show makes an appearance, and a couple of Clone Wars characters like Mama the Hutt. I really need to think of a better example than Mama the Hutt. Other characters appear. It's crazy to think about the extra characters and ships that could have been included had the developers had longer to finish the game. The third-person shooting is also quite good. The cover system is fine, and shooting pieces of armour off stormtroopers adds a real weight to your aiming. Enemies react in response to shooting specific parts of the body like the legs as well, which is a really cool touch. Enemy AI isn't great, but it's cool to see them rebuild broken down barriers to give themselves cover. The environment and vistas of the different worlds is often really beautiful, something I thought I'd never say about a LEGO game, but here we go. When 10-year-old me played the complete saga in 2007, there are certain scenes from the film that I always wish were playable. These include the Battle of Naboo, both in land and space, and finally playing through those sequences felt really satisfying. It's also cool how you can jump into whichever trilogy you want as soon as you start the game. You don't have to play through the game chronologically. However, these positives aside, the more you play, the more the cracks in the game design show. One of the biggest problems I had was the upgrade system. It often feels rudimentary, and like the developers had to fill a quota of upgrades for each class and simply didn't have enough useful ideas. Many of them rarely actually become useful and then just feel a bit pointless as a result. Take the charge shot that is usable by the Scoundrel class. This actively makes the combat effectiveness of these characters worse. Rather than being able to hold the shoot button to continuously shoot lasers, or quickly tap it repeatedly, the gun awkwardly slows down when you press the button. Also, the protocol droid upgrade that improves how powerful controllable turrets are is also largely unnecessary. The chances to use them are so far spaced throughout the game that it really demonstrates the developers struggling for upgrade ideas. Also, the villain upgrade, which gives you a little droid that attacks enemies, it's a neat idea visually, but during the level best laid plans, it prevents you from moving stealthily throughout the level without being detected, which you need to do for 100% on the level, as the droid will alert all enemies. It just goes to show, they didn't think these upgrades through. The upgrade system also fails in the way that the game is already easy, so the upgrades feel pointless. Puzzles are laughably easy, and the combat already isn't challenging. Enemies are easily dispatched, and outside bosses don't require you to change your tactics. They also do very little damage to your health, and enemies drop health boosts regardless, so you're never in any real danger. I know the game is designed to be enjoyed by all ages, but still, an upgrade system only works when a player feels they are actively becoming better because of it. Killing already easily dispatched enemies that little bit quicker, or pressing a button rather than solving a rudimentary puzzle, neither feels satisfying. The decision to lean into a class-based system also shows further thin areas in the game design. The Scoundrel class is the worst case of this. The function of this character is when you see certain purple objects, you can look at them, and the gameplay will go into slow motion as they line up a shot and fire, causing an explosion. I found myself almost never playing the Scoundrels in free play, and the purple objects are so few and far between that when I eventually found another one after hours of gameplay, I was a bit confused as to what it did. I'd actually forgotten the one purpose of an entire class. Also, the fact that there's 380 playable characters is great on the surface, but as you're running around the open world, unlocking character after character, that excitement goes, and the character just becomes another tick box on the arduous journey to 100%. Another issue is that certain cutscenes just aren't skippable. This includes both introductory and mid-mission cutscenes. Wow, hearing Ray say I need someone to show me my place in all of this, it gets really boring. Whenever you start the game, you hear it each time. I think a better solution would be random different iconic lines from the films playing each time you start up. For example, Old Ben giving some wisdom, or literally just Anakin talking about sand, anything to mix it up. The choice of which characters have voice lines is also baffling. Grand Moff Tarkin, arguably the main antagonist of A New Hope after Darth Vader, doesn't have a single line. Neither does he appear in any cutscenes, meaning it isn't really a great representation of the film. Some levels are incredibly underwhelming. In the complete saga, the opening level was a well-made playthrough of the first action set piece of The Phantom Menace. In the Skywalker Saga, you rush through it before starting the first proper mission, A Bigger Fish, which contains gameplay elements found nowhere else in the game, other than quick time events, I guess. And also you can breeze through it in just over 2 minutes. The worst offender of the short runtime for missions is They Fly Now, which took me less than 1 minute and 20 seconds to complete. It's such a shame that there was a self-imposed limit of 5 levels to develop thoughtful gameplay sessions around the plots of the films. And yet, some of the levels are so unintuitive and shallow. It is cool how you play through plot points outside the levels, but too often this boils down to just walking or flying to the next destination. Often enemies will be in your way, but they lack variety, and they're more of a nuisance than lending themselves to satisfying gameplay. To add to my point about the 5 mission limit for each film just not being enough, a huge wish for this game was to have the duel between Mace Windu and Chancellor Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith be playable. This admission is particularly painful, as the game is seemingly leading up to it by putting you in the shoes of Windu and Fisto as they go to arrest him, but the mission plays out as a cutscene. Hey, by the way, why aren't the other 2 Jedi in this game? Seriously, Man with the Hut is in this! The open world is nice, but as you complete more and more side quests, it starts to lose its charm. The quests often become a routine of fast travelling across the galaxy to talk to an NPC, and flying away to another planet to talk to another, with some bland combat encounters thrown in there. The game does occasionally have enduring moments. There's the mission where you collect trampolines for Bosk, who claims he needs them to boost workers' morale on Mustafar, only for it to end with you fighting him as he bounces from trampoline to trampoline. Sadly though, these fun moments feel rare. The ship combat also quickly becomes very tedious, as there is little you can do other than shoot and launch missiles. The space combat is also easy enough to the point that, unless you are very low on health, you can safely ignore the message telling you to maneuver when an enemy missile locks onto you. The journey to 100% also further becomes more tedious as you complete each level. Collecting mini-kits, unlocking characters, getting true Jedi, it's nowhere near as satisfying as the complete saga. Listen to the noise when you unlock a character in the complete saga. That's great. Now listen to the Skywalker Saga. It's not great, is it? The DLC that has released in the time since the game has been out has also been very underwhelming. Many people who are interested in the new characters have little to do with them, as they've already completed much of what the game has to offer. The DLC adds no new actual content such as levels, and the characters themselves do not change the gameplay in any meaningful way. Also, the characters have no voice lines, so they've got barely any personality. You've got that Star Wars money. Why can't the actors just record a handful of lines? Or just hire voice actors to do great interpretations of the characters? It's easy to see how parts of the game felt rushed when taking into account the game's production. It's become known that employees at Traveller's Tales were made to endure substantial amounts of crunch, with staff telling Polygon that many broke down due to the workload and stresses they were under. They further went on to say soft-spoken blackmail was taking place, with the implication problems would be made for those unwilling to do overtime. It's really hard to see how the corporate executives' desire for a huge open world can ever justify such a toxic work environment. Overall, the Skywalker Saga often feels stretched and unsatisfying. Slapping the Star Wars brand on the gameplay can only take it so far. But hey, if you just want to jump in for some short bursts of fun based on the films, you'll probably have a decent enough time. Thanks for watching.